Now it's time for the most interesting part of our program. We'll tell you some tactical techniques that can help you protect your tank in battle. Can we use mathematical theory for that? Of course we can. Now we'll explain several basic techniques that are based on this information. So let's go. Technique number 1, parking your tank at an angle. This is the so-called invincibility position. You should position your tank so it is diagonal to enemy tanks, so their shells will hit your armor at an angle and the effective armor thickness will be at its peak. To do this right, you should be familiar with your tank's armor. If you do it just right, the enemy will have considerable difficulties trying to penetrate your armor. Here's an example using two well-known vehicles. The Soviet heavy tank IS-7 is armored so heavily in the front and poorly on its sides that it's better to face the enemy head-on than diagonally. On the other hand, the German Panzer VI Tiger is more resistant when parked at an angle due to its massive flat frontal armor. Technique number 2, peeking around the corner. You should always drive cutting corners so as to protect your vulnerable hull side and your tank's tracks. You should also keep in mind the composition of your vehicle armor so that enemy shells hit only the most protected parts of it. You should expose your tracks only in case if your enemy has just taken a shot or doesn't see you. Don't forget this basic rule of tank construction. Almost every vehicle is protected better on its front than on its sides. And it is protected better on its sides than from behind or from above. This is why you should keep your front and frontal angles turned toward your most dangerous opponents. Technique number 3, making use of horizontal rocking. You can perform this common technique by driving your vehicle from left to right and back in short dashes. With this trick, your enemy won't be able to aim at your weak spots accurately and fire at your vertical armor gaps. This is especially helpful when your armor is relatively flat. While reloading, you can rotate your turret. We warn you that the enemy will have major difficulties aiming at its sides. Technique number 4, becoming a bait fish. Now that's a challenge. You have to be a real pro to do this right. Let your enemy fire at your hull side, then quickly turn into a diagonal position. This way the shell will ricochet. As a result, your tank won't get damaged. Sudden, surprising movements are always useful in an engagement if you can manage to keep your crosshairs on the target. Nevertheless, don't forget that rotating the hull also decreases its speed. Technique number 5, try dueling with your enemy from behind cover. A tank's turret armor is usually thicker than its hull armor. This means you should try to hide your vulnerable glacis plate behind some cover. Indestructible obstacles, for example, a disabled tank or a hill, are perfect for a hull-down position. However, single-shot obstacles like a car, a stone fence, or a shaky barn can only be used for this purpose. They will only protect you against 1 or 2 shots. Your enemy will have to aim at sides or running gear, the most protected parts of your tank. What is more, the impact angle of the enemy shells will be very large. You can get a ricochet, or one of your external modules might get damaged, but you won't lose any hit points. If you are going to attack, you can turn or roll away a bit, and then return to your basic position after you have fired. If you do everything right, this will make it hard for the enemy to aim at your weak spots. Technique number 6, using ground cover and shooting suddenly from unexpected places. Buildings may have windows and doors you can shoot through. Ruins may have gaps that can also help. Fences and rock walls are a good opportunity to blaze away at your enemy with only a tiny part of your turret exposed. Use these places, study the maps, and try to remember any advantageous positions you found. That's it for now. We hope this episode and the information provided in it will be effective for keeping your enemy in view longer and keeping you out of the garage. You're always welcome to